Hey, welcome to Fireside Tats, the official podcast of the Tattoo Improvement Network. Are you sure we're going? You guys look confused. All right. All right. We're here with Shawn Patton, our second interview of the Ink and Iron Fest. I was just telling the last guy we podcasted with, we went down to Ink and Dagger last week and podcasted with Russ Abbott and a couple of guys at his shop.
I just got back from there.
I
just did a week down there, I guess. I'm good friends with those guys.
It's a super cool shop, isn't it? Man, that's nice. But I was afraid the whole time that I had called, because we were getting ready for this, and I kept confusing the names, and we finished the interview, and I was like, shit, did I call Ink and Dagger Ink and Iron the whole time? But luckily I did not. So we're here with Shawn Patton from Cleveland, Ohio, Tried and True Tattoo, and we're gonna just get a little information on his background, on his. You may know him from a handful of. I bet you'll recognize his work. I didn't necessarily know by his name at first, but as soon as I flipped on this page, I recognized some of the work. So we'll just start with a little bit of your background. Where you said you've been tattooing, what, 7 or 8 years, something like that?
7 years, yeah, full time.
Any art background before that, or just drawing?
Just your typical high school art classes. Nothing outside of that, really.
But mainly just pencil and paper, not a lot of
pencil, paper, some acrylic, just kind of the stuff they kind of make you do through school and stuff. Acrylic was probably the only thing I was ever comfortable with.
Yeah. Your style of tattooing, it's, a lot of people, I think, we've even done a few shows on people getting into tattooing and feeling like they had to identify themselves with a style really quickly, like with to do recognizable work, and feeling almost kind of pressured or rushed to get into a style quickly so that they can move. You obviously have not taken that path at all, because your work is really different from one piece kind of to the next, huh?
Yeah, I came up in your typical street shop where you kind of did whatever came in the door that day, and that's how you survived. And that's, so really, from the start, it was, tribal. It was, just everything. You had to take it for what it was, and it really made me much more diverse. And I feel comfortable with everything. The only thing I really don't touch is no line, like black and gray portraits. That's the only thing I don't mess with, really.
Yeah. Just black and gray portraits, or real?
I've been recently doing more of a traditionalized take on a color portrait. And I've had a lot of fun with it because it's not as I guess demanding as I feel like a black and gray portrait can be, as far as keeping your contrast in check the whole time, skin tone created only through gradients of gray. That's scares me a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough, and that stuff you have to be so deliberate and so planned out. I have seen some of the portrait work that you're talking about. That stuff looks like it's a lot of fun. It's real cool.
And I feel like I'm doing something responsible and doing something that's going to really hold up over time, because you're putting your black where your black goes and your lines where your lines go, and I feel like that's going to hold up very well over time. Yeah.
That's something that we just talked about in our last interview a little bit, was kind of the longevity of some of these really painterly tattooers, that some of this color realism and stuff that is where there are 15 different peaches in this, and you're like, how many of those, how many variations of those are there really going to be in 5 or 6 years?
I talk about that a lot with when I get a chance to talk shop with other tattooers, and you sit there and you watch people, they put out a whole tray of color, and you said, 8, 12, 16 different versions of something. Honestly, when I look at something, the most variance I see is 3.
Yeah.
When I look at something, that's how my mind breaks it down, dark, medium, and light, So I don't know how that's going to hold up. I mean, you see stuff and you're like, that's incredible on Instagram, and what happens when that person's hair grows back, or they go in the sun one time? Is that going to be a good tattoo still?
Yeah. That's a lot of that. A lot of that still remains to be seen, because some of that stuff is still so new. It hasn't had a chance to really age. But I see these guys that are doing, for example, a super nice rose, in white roses with subtle pinks on the side of someone's neck, and you're like, how? Are you sure that was a good idea? A white rose on the side of someone's neck, of all things?
I think that we kind of entered a weird period here where people are more worried about their social interactions and stuff like that, and sharing the pictures and stuff like that, and they're not thinking responsibly, and they're not looking back to how they were taught And kind of like you said, I mean, these young tattooers are like, they're seeing this stuff, they're jumping right to it without learning what it means to make a good, solid base tattoo.
Yeah.
So they don't, they're taking, they're being irresponsible a lot of times, in my opinion.
And probably unknowingly a lot of times.
Yeah, just, because they see it and you see it and you go, I can do that too,
Right. And that's something that, and with tattooers coming, we talked about this too in the last podcast, coming straight out of art school, people that are going and getting art degrees to become tattoo artists, which is a relatively new thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they're trying to translate a lot of these fine art principles to tattooing without really learning the structure of what makes a tattoo.
Totally.
Yeah.
You get these people that, like I recently worked up in a Toronto show and we're next to some more like soft, like black and gray guys from overseas, and they were just like, I'm watching them going, how do you do that? They're watching me put lines in, like one pass, big solid lines, and they're like, how are you doing that? I couldn't do that with a machine if I tried.
Yeah.
It's like there's something wrong there. It's like, because I could probably figure out how to get that stuff real smooth and everything, but if you can't put a line in, that's like 101 for me.
That's trouble. Yeah. I remember podcasting with Jeff Ensminger some months back, and he was like, you know what I've decided? There's no reason to have more than one red. He's like, I can't ever tell a red from another red. You've got like blood red and dark red and this lipstick red and all these different reds. And he's like, what the? People are trying to get all these subtleties, and what are they really going to be? Well, let's get back to your work. Some of it is super traditional. The Polynesian style stuff is other end of the spectrum from from that. Talk a little bit about your process, how you approach those two. You mentioned that you hand draw a lot of the Polynesian stuff on. You stencil a lot of your more traditional work.
Just the first Polynesian pieces I did, I wasn't able to, I tried to draw them on paper and stencil them, and it never fit. It never looked like it was meant for that person. And I didn't really want to marker all that stuff on at first because it made me nervous to take on that type of intricate design. But once I did it and got comfortable with it, and there's certain products that have made the markering on a lot easier.
I haven't used any of those. Some of the sprays that kind of hold
as
them.
long as you give it its time to dry, as long as you do that, they will help that marker stay on there. I've tried some of the pens and stuff, but the marker and spray seems to be the best method I found, I'm just taking a light marker and I kind of map out, I started mapping out in blocks, to get a flow down, I want a pattern shape through here, a pattern shape through there. And then I take a darker marker and kind of be a little more specific about, the patterns and stuff like that. And it's worked out great. My biggest fear is drawing a sleeve on and I'm like, not what I was thinking, it hasn't happened yet, but that does make me nervous.
Yeah, and it takes a little bit of trust from the client's standpoint to let someone sit and draw.
I kind of go into it and I let them know, this is a little more open, and you like what I do, so you're gonna have to trust that what I'm gonna draw is gonna be something you're gonna want.
Yeah, we talk a lot directly to collectors, and a decent amount of our following is are non-tattooers, and that's one thing that we could try to preach a lot is you're by the time you're sitting down in that chair, your homework is really done. You should have done the work to find the tattooer that was going to do the best tattoo for you, and then at that point you can't micromanage. You really have to trust them.
Right.
Yeah. So that you bring up a good point with that stuff that you've tried to stencil it, but drawing to the body is nearly impossible unless you're drawing on the body, huh?
Right.
For that stuff.
I've been around other tattooers who are great at what they do, and I've seen tricks and stuff. It's just never worked for me. I've watched guys take and lay down contact paper on skin and map out shape blocks and stuff, but then I don't know, I can't think that way. I don't know. I wish I could, because it would make it a lot easier to be able to pre-draw something like that.
Right. Yeah, I'm the same way. I wish I could a little more, although I really enjoy kind of drawing to the body, drawing on the body.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when you're making kind of immediate decisions like that, you make better decisions, you get into a flow a little earlier.
Right, totally.
And then by the time you're ready to start the tattoo, you're loose, you've already been drawing, been sitting with the person for an hour.
I always tell them, once I've drawn it on, I've already tattooed it in my head.
Yeah.
It's already been done. I know what's going to be. They're looking at a bunch of lines. I'm I already know where the light and dark's going to be and stuff. I've already figured it out. So it really gives me the time to familiarize myself with it as I go. And it kind of makes the process go a lot faster.
Yeah. You introduced me to a new idea that I didn't really know existed. What is this pizza tattoo culture, and how'd you get into doing pizza tattoos?
I had a few friends that just came to the shop like, I want to get a little pizza tattoo behind my ear. I was like, yeah, I can definitely do that for you, And again, I threw it up on Instagram, and at the time, like my pictures were doing so it was a lot earlier, on Instagram, probably almost 3 years ago now. It was just a while in there.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was just fire, And I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, I'll do another one. And I started doing it, and then people started wanting more. And next thing I know, I'm booking 2 days at a convention just doing pizza tattoos, pizza-related tattoos. And, it really spiraled out of control to the point where I'm seeing them, and people are, like, oh, that's kind of trendy. I'm just like, man, did I start that,
this
though?
trend?
Yeah. Did I do that? Now I'm being accused of being trendy. I'm not sure if that's a thing or not, but
it's a bizarre thing. We were just talking before the show started, and we have an apprentice that just started with us that has several pizza tattoos, and I was just like, what is that? And until you just brought it up, I didn't even know it was a thing. I didn't know there was a pizza tattoo Instagram page.
Yeah, my thing was when I first started doing them, I was like, you can do a pizza tattoo. I was like, it'd be really cool to take like a classic imagery and just throw pizza in it. You know what I mean? Like just take a Jerry design and throw pizza in it and see what happens, Yeah. And it's come up with some really cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. The guy Clinton Lee that had several pizza tattoos down at Ink and Dagger. So it's obviously a young culture thing. It's like I don't think many people my age have pizza tattoos. Maybe they do. I don't know. What about bouncing around a little bit? What about the Star Wars nesting doll project? How did that come along?
Honestly, it was just one of those things. I just had like it'd be cool to do some type of a project,
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking about, like, I always enjoyed doing like Matryoshka dolls and stuff like that. I was like, those are fun. You can put a lot of design to be intricate, and it's still, you can like, you can still approach it in a traditional tattooing kind of way.
Yeah.
And I was like, it'd be cool to do like a series of something. And I was like, what do I like? And I was like, I love Star Wars. I mean, who doesn't love Star Wars?
Yeah.
So it turned into a thing. It started off like, I'm just gonna do these little dolls, and I'm gonna line up these people, and then it turned into, well, I'm gonna get everybody to come in here in 2 weeks. And then I was like, well, they could be a little cooler. And then I started adding like flowers to them and like all kinds of stuff, like something to go with the theme. And next thing I know, I have 2 weeks, everybody's prepaid, and it was just like go for 2 weeks. And people, some people fly in to get them and stuff just from Instagram.
Yeah.
And so like, I kind of like put up teasers and stuff like that. Oh, these are coming, and I didn't post anything until they're all done. And then like every day I just released one, and people were like, hitting up like, what's tonight's? They were trying to guess what the next character is going to be and stuff. And it was a really cool thing. I was really glad I did it. It was a very stressful 2 weeks.
Was it?
Very stressful, yeah.
That's an interesting kind of marketing tool as well, to engage people that way and have them like anticipating the next post you're going to make and guessing what it is.
I talked with Russ Abbott quite a bit about how he thought I should maybe take it on as creating more of kind of like you said, a little bit of a marketing kind of thing, like how to pull people into it, then they end up getting reposted everywhere. They were all over Instagram and Facebook and Tumblr and so it was a fun project, and I'm definitely thinking about the next thing. I'm just not sure what it's going to be.
What it is yet. That was going to be my next question. Russ, I was really impressed with Russ. I'd only met him a couple of times, but spending some time with him last week or in the last couple of weeks was I didn't realize just how business minded and marketing minded he is. He's Genius. Really a smart guy.
Genius,
He's got it all together. He runs that shop so well. I could just tell by the way he interacted with people when we were there, and I just walked away thoroughly impressed with him. And I just got that color wheel, and I love it. I've been trying to use it. It's super
I picked
cool.
one up when I was on a guest spot there. I haven't got a chance to really mess with it too much yet, but I thought it was another great project from him. Everything he does is so like well thought out and deliberate that he can't fail.
Yeah. He I talked a little bit with him about the possibility of doing one for painters using like a big Gamblin or some big paint, Rembrandt, some big paint manufacturer, because one thing that I found the most valuable out of that was sometimes especially with those really high key colors, it's hard to determine where they are on a value scale.
Right.
And that thing having the stepped value scale, it shows you where things are. Really, I can tell that's exactly how I'll use it, because I'm not one to set out 25 inks. I set out just a handful and mix, but just to be able to see where those things are from the starting point on their value scale is really nice. That way you don't end up like putting two high key colors against each other and thinking you're creating some value contrast, and they're the exact same gray, underneath. So
I like it because I think when you just kind of an artistic mind, like I think that you tend to make those good decisions already, but it kind of really helps like put the science behind it. And just say you're having an off day and you just need some help with a color selection. It's there for you,
Yeah. And sometimes I think we all fall into the rut of using the palette that we use, and you're just like, oh man, I know that this brown and this baby blue work really well together for this little trick. And you can just using that, you can kind of shift those tones just a little bit and keep doing what you're doing, but change it up. Through that. Where do people find you if they want to make appointments or look at your work? Best way?
Instagram, at Shawn Patton Tattooer.
Okay.
I do most of my business there. It's an amazing business tool.
Yeah,
that's
it really
become.
For artists especially. Yeah. Are you booking appointments through Instagram?
Yeah. Okay. I'll do them on there, and then just through email.
Yeah. Okay.
But
how far are you, or can people get tattooed by you in the fairly near future?
I don't really book out too far. I'm definitely a hard worker. I work. Yeah. I don't like the idea of being booked out for months on end.